Hello boys and girls, this is Mr. So. Welcome back for another lesson of biology. Today we are going through lesson 46 of chapter 29, Phylogenetic Relationships. Before you start watching the video, remember to like and subscribe my channel and also share the video to your classmates. Let's start. Besides having the homologous structure which supports the idea that all organisms come from a common ancestor, there is another evidence for evolution, that is, the second one, the comparative biochemistry. That means to check the difference in the DNA sequence or the amino acid sequence between the different species. Let's take a look at the idea or the principle of comparative biochemistry. It says that cells of all organisms, they are made up of similar chemicals, such as the DNA or the amino acids. And these suggested that all the species nowadays, they arose from a common ancestor. Since the cells of all organisms, they are made up of similar chemicals, such as the DNA or amino acids. By comparing the similarity of DNA or amino acids in different species, the phylogenetic relationships, that means the evolutionary relationships, can now be deduced. First of all, let's compare the amino acid sequence in a particular protein. We know that genetic codes in DNA helps to code for amino acid. So with a particular genetic code, you will have a particular amino acid sequence. However, when mutation occurs, one of the base is now changed, and this causes a different genetic code which codes for a different amino acid. So now the amino acid sequence is now changed. By comparing the amino acid sequence in hemoglobin, that means 血红蛋白, between human and other vertebrates, we can see the difference. Among all of them, the gorilla, the monkey, the dog, chicken, and frog, which one is highly closely related to us in the evolutionary relationships? It should be the gorilla, because the difference in the amino acid between gorilla and human is just one only, while for the frog, it has 67 differences in the amino acid sequence compared with us, the human. Therefore, frog is the least related to us, while for the gorilla is highly related to us. So the scientists, they believe the following assumption, that the fewer differences in the amino acid sequence, there will be fewer mutation. That means the organisms, they will have a closer phylogenetic relationships. What about the principle behind the assumption? 個原理係咩啦? So let's take a look. We know that amino acid, it is coded by genetic code. So if you have mutation in the genetic code, that means you have different amino acids in the polypeptide. The organisms with a closer evolutionary relationships or phylogenetic relationships, they should have fewer mutations in their body. Since the amino acid sequence difference in gorilla is just one compared with human, so gorilla is more closely related to human in the evolutionary relationship, or you can say the phylogenetic relationship. We can use an evolutionary tree to show the evolutionary relationship between different organisms on the previous PowerPoint slide. Human is the highly evolved organisms, so it is put on one end of the evolutionary tree. On the other end, we write down the name of the common ancestor because it's very far away from us. It is a very ancient organism, which all other organisms nowadays are evolved from it. So we write it down on the other side at the bottom. Next, we write down the name which is highly related to human in the evolutionary history, that is gorilla. It is highly related to human, so we write down the name of gorilla right next to human. And then the second next organism which is highly related to human should be monkey, and then the dog, and then the chicken, and then the very least related organisms with human would be the frog. So we write it down on the other end of the evolutionary tree. This one is the least related. But you can see the frog is very close to the common ancestor. So that means the frog is highly related to the common ancestor. This is how you draw out the evolutionary tree. The second method in the comparative biochemistry is to compare the base sequence of DNA. When you compare the base sequence of DNA among the 5 different mammals in the table, gorilla, it has the greatest similarity in the base sequence compared to human, while for the squirrel at the bottom, it has the least similarity in the base sequence compared to human. Therefore, when you are comparing the base sequence of DNA, scientists believe the following assumption, got it, that the higher the percentage of the similarity of base sequence of DNA, the closer the phylogenetic relationship. The principle behind the assumption is mutation that been changed the base sequence of DNA, which in organisms with closer evolutionary relationships, they should have fewer mutations. Or, on the other hand, you can say more similarity in the base sequence. Since gorilla it has the greatest similarity in the base sequence compared to human, gorilla it has the closest phylogenetic relationship to human. Or you can say gorilla it has the closest evolutionary relationship to human. Please go to page 15 of your textbook and finish the MCQ. Go to the reading to learn on page 21 of your textbook. Now please take out your classwork 29.3. Let's do it together. Cytochrome C is a protein which you can find in the mitochondria. It can be very useful in the study of evolutionary relationships because most animals, they have the cytochrome C, this protein. In the following table, it shows you the cytochrome C amino acid sequence in human and also the cytochrome C amino acid sequence in other animals such as the chicken, the horse, tuna, frog, shark, turtle, monkey, and the rabbit. Now, by looking at the difference in the amino acid sequence, we can know about their evolutionary relationships. What you need to do is, I have done the first example for you. In the case of chicken, I highlighted the different amino acid sequence compared with human in blue. So now, can you do the rest for me? To be honest, it is very time-consuming to highlight all the different amino acids in the horse, tuna, and the frog all the way to the rabbit. So to save time, I have done it for you. What you need to do is, can you count how many difference in the amino acid in chicken all the way to the rabbit and write it down in the next table? After counting, this is the number of amino acid differences compared to the human cytochrome C protein. Let's take a look. Among all of the animals, monkey it has the smallest difference in the amino acids. Therefore, it is highly related to human. But for shark, it has the greatest difference in the amino acids compared to human. So therefore, it is the least related to human. Based on the cytochrome C data, which organism is most closely related to human? If you remember the table, it should be monkey, because it has the smallest difference in the amino acid sequence. And then let's take a look at question B. Explain how the study of cytochrome C data helps in building up the phylogenetic relationship between human and other organisms, or you can say to build up the evolutionary relationship between human and other organisms. That is, you have to recall the assumption for building up the phylogenetic relationship. What is the assumption given by the scientists? That is, the fewer the difference in the amino acid sequence of a protein, that means they have fewer mutation. That means the fewer the mutation, the closer the phylogenetic relationships between species. Last question, question C. Do any of the organisms have the same number of differences from human cytochrome C? Alright, I give you the answer, that is no. And in such a situation, how would you decide which is more closely related to humans? So that means besides checking the amino acid sequence of this particular cytochrome C, what else can you use to check for the evolutionary relationships? You have two more methods. That means you can compare the amino acid sequence of another protein. Why not? Or you can try to look for the difference in the base sequence of DNA to compare the base sequence of DNA. Question D. Based on the results above, that means based on the table showing the number of amino acid differences compared to the human cytochrome C protein, can you construct an evolutionary tree of the above organisms? So what should you start with? You should first write out human on the left-hand side on one end of the evolutionary tree, because human is the most evolved organisms. And then on the other end at the bottom, write down the common ancestor, which is very not related to us, very ancient organisms. Now what should you do next is to draw out the next highly related organisms to human in the evolutionary tree. It should be monkey. Write down on the next, right next to the human, and then do the same for the second next highly related organisms to human. It should be the rabbit. And then the third highly related organisms to human should be horse, and then chicken, and then turtle, and then frog, tuna, and then at the very end, shark. So at the end, you should know shark, it is the least related to human. But you can see the shark, it is having a very close position with the common ancestor. That means the shark, it is highly related to the common ancestor. You can say more related. And this is how you construct an evolutionary tree. That is the end for the video about the phylogenetic relationship. I will see you in the next video. Bye bye.